Hello, welcome back to Aetheral Space 3.11. We're still on that grind.
Yeah, and if you're still listening to the series, if you're one of like the 10 people, you're epic.
After that debacle in 3.4, if you stayed on after that, then I'm very grateful.
What happened in 3.4?
I don't think anything particularly bad happened in 3.4.
Alright, so let's see. Last time, our crew... I don't know what else to call them, so I just say our crew. The main protagonists. But there's like two girls.
Well, they.
They. I'm just gonna say our crew. Our crew. The Pogs. Okay, that's their official name. The Pogs went to capture Roz, who is the Umrant, who's got information about the Citizen, who is a terrorist that is causing damage and making people angry in the city. And they captured him without a problem. The problem that came after was, well, for one, their sort of action and Skipper, like, feigning a gunshot and all that kind of caused a lot of people to start running. And then some other groups came in, some arrows started flying out of nowhere, and then everyone booked it. And we haven't... The Arrow Man is still hidden to the Pogs, sorry. But Rayanch and Noel revealed themselves, and it appears that a battle is about to begin. And but that was not before Skipper did his darndest to piss off Noel.
Well, that's good to know.
All right.
And Rayanch is also seems to have demonstrated an ability to blow up a pebble very violently.
Yeah, he's got pebble bombs. And he's like,
I
like to imagine he's doing that thing characters do where he's like spinning it between his knuckles. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like he starts with between the pinky and the index finger, and he's like spinning it between each of the knuckles back and forth.
Kira Queen.
You sure were talking a lot of shit back there, huh? Said Noelle, cocking her head. I'm the kind of person that takes that a teensy bit seriously, you know? Skipper bit his lip. Ah, shit. He thought pressing her buttons about the age thing would get her to act rashly, but with the clear amount of firepower the tyke had at her disposal, acting rashly was the last thing he wanted her to do. He said. Well, more like he fucking laughed, scratching his head. Would you, forgive me if I said I was sorry? Nope. Skipper caught Dragan giving him a murderous glare from the corner of his eye. Fine, fine. Maybe this was a bad situation, and maybe it was partially completely his fault for getting them into it. But that didn't mean it was a situation they couldn't get out of. Ignoring the drones, oh, how he'd love to ignore the drones. There were at least 3 enemies. This kindergarten escapee named Noel, the pebble master named Rayanch. I don't know if you can call him a pebble, he threw one bomb that everyone saw and reacted to. And an unseen sniper who used a bow and arrow. Rayanch, I assume, is Aether ability, like with an S after the apostrophe. Rayanch's Aether ability clearly involved turning those pebbles into high-yield bombs, most likely by using alteration to make their interiors highly unstable while leaving the outer layer unchanged. What's the science behind it? Don't think about it. With the strength of his explosions and the speed, he could probably prime those pebbles, given the fact that he was holding a few of them, with no worry of them exploding in his hand. He was most likely a powerful Aether user. Not contender level... Oh god, are there power levels?
No, the contenders are a group, they've been mentioned.
Oh, what is their thing again? There's so many fucking groups.
We don't know yet.
Can we get like an index page? You know what Aetheral Space needs? A glossary of all the groups. Like on Royal Road, like a glossary page.
We'll go deeper into it.
Okay, but I still feel like it could benefit greatly from a glossary page with like 1 to 2 sentence descriptions of every fucking group. Not contender level, of course, but probably just beneath someone like a toy Musashi. The sniper, though, was harder to judge. The arrows that had lodged in the ground looked sturdy, so they couldn't be pure Aether. The stuff was trash when used as a projectile. They were most likely some other object that the sniper turned into arrows using Aether, then infused with even more to make them stronger. In his experience, though, people capable of that level of Aether manipulation didn't go for simple strength. There'd be some kind of trick to the arrows. That left this girl, called Noelle. Those drones looked like they were moving independently of each other, not following the same routes. There wasn't any kind of controller in her hands, and as far as he'd seen, she hadn't contacted anyone else to make them move. I assume you mentioned there's like programming-style Aether before, that she probably does some shit like that allows her to use her cogitant mind, because she has cogitant eyes, right?
Yeah.
So she can, like, fucking be the hacker man in her head. That's what I imagined, anyway. That's my prediction. So chances were that she was in control of them. Even for a cogitant, though, that kind of multitasking would be absurd. A mental Aether ability, then, giving her the capacity to control all those drones at once. That was the most likely option. When it came to Aether, mental abilities were like software that ran on your own mind, using your Aether as a medium to communicate. A mental ability couldn't do anything that was beyond the user's mental abilities, but it could automate it, make it so that the user didn't have to expend any effort. Oh my god, she's fucking writing Python in her brain. Huge brain. That's what every Kajtin is, just the big brain meme. There was a certain special officer capable of seeing a little while into the future. That was accomplished with a mental ability that automated his skill at reading muscle movements. Mental abilities could be terrifying like that, especially with cogitants like this girl and that officer. Are there any cogitants that are like lazy, like people that don't do anything with their abilities and coast through life? Because I feel like, oh yeah, I was gonna say that'd be me if I was a cogitant. I wouldn't fucking master my ability. I'd be like, oh cool, school's easy. He doubted multitasking was the only thing she was capable of. He had to tread carefully here. Noelle smiled a sickly sweet smile. If you'd like for your bodies to keep their consistency, I'd suggest you hand that guy over. Yeah? Fuck you! Growled Ruth, still holding the unconscious Roz on her back. Noelle giggled. Wow, you're mad, huh? I really felt bad about messing with you, she said, not sounding sorry at all. But it was just so easy. I gave you a little fright and you led me right to my prey. There's no shame in losing to me like that, you know? I'm simply above... Oh my god, fucking Rick and Morty watcher over here. I'm simply above you mentally. Ruth growled again, this time with the promise of... I hope Ruth beats her face and is like, I'm simply above you physically, sorry. This time with the promise of blood in her voice, but trailed off as Dragan gave her a suspicious look. What is she talking about? He said. Did you already know her? Ruth glanced away guiltily. Okay, Ruth was keeping secrets now. That wasn't ideal, but he could hardly blame her given the example he'd set recently. Oh wait, was that Skipper asking that?
Well, Dragan asked, but Skipper's thinking.
That's so confusing.
What do you mean?
So Dragan's the one talking to her, and then it's Skipper thinking, but it doesn't say it's Skipper, it says he. So you would think it was the last proper noun mentioned, Dragan.
Yeah, Dragan. Yeah, it is Dragan.
Yeah, but he's saying he'd set recently, but he wasn't the one hiding secrets. Skipper was the one hiding secrets. I guess. It's just a little confusing. Besides, this was hardly the time for an interrogation. Noelle sighed. I'm getting really sick of waiting like this. Rayanch, if they don't hand Roz over in the next 10 seconds, let's attack. The young man named Rayanch nodded, holding one hand up in front of his face and the other behind his back as if he were some sort of ninja. Of course, we shall do battle. So my question is, Aether doesn't really have a set point, right?
What do you mean?
Like, there isn't an X amount of it you can use up?
No, it sort of, you access it, and there's an amount you can use at once. It would be more accurate to say.
Because I was going to say, unless there's a limit to its strength, couldn't Bruno just throw up a shield and, like, escort mission them to the nearest office where they could get back up?
The shields aren't invincible.
The young man named Rayanch nodded, holding one hand up in front of his face and the other behind his back, as if he were some sort of ninja. Of course, we shall do battle. Noelle's gaze moved to look up at Skipper, staring him right in the eyes. 10, she said, with an obvious glee lying just beneath the surface. Shit! There was a time limit now. Well, that was okay, actually. That was good. In fact, he always came up with his best ideas under pressure. Excuse me, sorry. Oh, something's not good with my stomach. Unfortunately, none seem to be popping up right now. What would the Widow recommend in this kind of situation? Who's the Widow?
Who knows?
Oh my god, you can't just keep introducing characters we don't. This really is anime.
Yeah,
he can almost see the hag now. He could almost see the hag now, delivering one of those lectures she was so good at. Advantages and disadvantages are dependent on your point of view, she would say in that thick accent of hers, all harsh consonants and sharp turns. Make your enemies' resources benefit you. Then you will win. Easy peasy, yes? Again, in the corner of his eye, Skipper saw Dragan move, whispering something into the ear of a nodding Bruno. He wasn't the only one trying to come up with a plan, then. 5! Noelle drew the word out as if preparing for a game of hide-and-seek. Oh, shit. She was still counting. Skipper had almost forgotten. Okay, plan. Turn disadvantages into advantages. Well, Noelle had about 50 advantages whizzing about their heads, and they seemed pretty loyal to her. The one standing next to her, though, Rayanch, he seemed like an honorable warrior type. Could he maybe challenge him to a duel and have his crew escape while they were fighting? No. One look at Noelle's face confirmed that no matter how Rayanch felt, she didn't give two shots about Arner. I assume that's shits. Yeah. Even if Rayanch let the crew go, she'd shoot them in the back. 3. Nothing else for it, then. A frontal assault. Strength against strength. Let the best man win. It was a strategy uncomfortably close to the Supremacy's philosophy, but he could see no other options here. 2. Skipper lowered his body to the ground, curled up all his fingers save the index on both hands, preparing himself to use his heartbeat shotguns at maximum strength. He'd have to be careful firing them from his prosthetic hand. Unless he adjusted the point where the sound exited his body a little, he risked firing one from his stump instead and destroying the new limb. 1. Noelle's eyes narrowed in childish cruelty as she finished her countdown. Then she shrugged, her drones suddenly arranging themselves in the combat positions around her. Well, if you really want to die that bad, I guess that's... Hadrian! Roared a familiar voice. Uh-oh. Foolishly, Skipper had believed the situation couldn't get any worse, but he clearly underestimated the universe's capacity for dickery. My name is Musashi Masataka Oniwa, and so long as I stand, you will not survive this night! Hadrian! Roared a familiar voice. Dragan couldn't help it. For a moment, the sheer rage in that voice made him forget what kind of a situation he was in, and he turned his head to the side to look at the source. His eyes widened as he recognized his chances of dying in the next few minutes had somehow gotten higher. A toy Musashi stood at the other end of the street of flaming stalls, that damn sword of his clutched in one hand. He was wearing old, dusty clothing, presumably some kind of disguise, but it was unmistakably him. Dragan would recognize that white shining sword anywhere. Even now, you know what's going to happen now is Marie's going to offer cover fire and it's going to let the group get away. Dragan would recognize that white shining sword anywhere. Even now, the glow from it reflected off the puddles of rainwater beneath, illuminating the whole area. It was like a moon wandering the earth. 1,000 questions raced through Dragan's mind. What the hell was Musashi doing here? What did he want? Well, Dragan had some idea of that. Was it just him? Most importantly, could Dragan get away? Musashi pointed his sword towards Dragan, ragged breath coming out in snarls. How far had he run to get here? Judging from his exhaustion, it must have been nearly the whole district. Dragan Hadrian, he panted. I've been looking for you. Noelle looked down the street too from her position, countdown temporarily forgotten in the wake of the new arrival. And you are? She said, distinctly unimpressed. His eyes flicked towards her, before going back to Dragan. A toy Musashi, special officer of the Supremacy, he said through gritted teeth, completely defeating the purpose of a disguise. I have business with Mr. Hadrian. Noelle laughed derisively. Well, you're welcome to have him, I guess. We just want the guy they've kidnapped. Musashi's nostrils flared as his gaze traveled to Roz, slung over Ruth's shoulder. Kidnapped? He muttered, danger in his voice. Hadrian. He took a step forward. Fuck! He thought the situation was bad 60 seconds ago, but now it had somehow gotten multiple times worse. He'd intended for Bruno to project a ramp-like shield that would allow them to flee from the rooftops, but Musashi's speed would now make that impossible. Still, he had to do something, or else he was dead. A hollow anxiety began to settle in his lungs, like something in there was flailing angrily. He needed to think, but thinking was so hard with all this damn pressure! He glanced at Skipper's hands. They were still readied for heartbeat shotguns, and his mouth was a flat line of preparation. He'd be ready to fire at the biggest threat the moment his inevitable fight began, but Musashi would still get through. Dragan just knew it. His eyes flicked around as Musashi continued his approach, sword dragging along the floor with a shout. For someone who loves Luminescence Chan, I feel like you shouldn't be doing that. With a shower of angry sparks. Yeah, but, I don't know. That seems out of character for him to, just let his sword, lose sharpness and damage it.
He looked at Ruth. It'll survive it, don't worry.
At Bruno, at Skipper, at Noelle, at the drones, at the buildings, at Roz... At Roz? There was a plan there. It was insane, and unlikely to work, which means it'll work. But if he did it right, then the disadvantages before him could be turned into advantages. Oh, he's becoming a little Skipper. But that was only if he did it right. That worry stayed his hand for a brief moment. Well, that and the fact that it was morally very bad. Hadrian! Said Musashi, coming to a halt several meters away, holding his sword in one hand. There was the promise of a killing blow in his stance. Come and face me! Explain your treason with strength! Dragan sighed, and made as if stepping forward, shaking off Bruno when he tried to pull him back. The anger on Musashi's face eased, just a little bit, as he saw Dragan acquiesce. Well, seemingly acquiesce. The moment Musashi's concentration wavered, Dragan whirled around, pulled Roz from Ruth's back, and put a plasma pistol against the unconscious Umbran's temple. Nobody fucking move! He screamed, making sure his fingers seemed unstable against the trigger. Noelle's eyes widened, her companion taking a step forward before being stopped by a tug on his arm. Dragan's companions, save Bruno, gave him uncertain looks. Even Skipper didn't quite sure... What? Oh, even Skipper didn't seem quite sure what he intended. Musazi's face contorted with rage. The hand on his sword tightened, but he himself didn't move. "Coward!" he hissed, rage invading every syllable. Dragan swung Raz around so that he could keep both Musazi and Noel's group in his sight, using the Umbrant like a human shield. Yeah, this is definitely not the more... are we sure this is the hero of the story? I said, nobody fucking move! He repeated, making sure that no drones had moved away from Noel. I'm serious! One wrong step and I'll melt his head off! Dragan, said Ruth, cautiously, from behind him. Her trepidation was understandable. She probably thought Dragan would actually do it. To be fair, Dragan wasn't sure if he would or not either. Not now, he said, still staring into Noel's eyes. The younger girl clicked her tongue, clearly annoyed. The young man standing behind her, Rayange, glared at him with obvious disdain. You disgrace yourself, a knave. Knave? Was this guy serious? Dude, you're the one fucking holding a hostage at gunpoint. Let the hostage go, growled Musazi, attracting Dragan's attention. My quarrel is with you alone, Hadrian. Probably best I don't let him go then, shot back Dragan. You drone girl, Noel, whatever! Noel's hands were clenched into fists at her side. She'd clearly been enjoying controlling the situation, and now it had been stolen from her. What? She said, almost pouting. If that guy, Dragan said, waving his gun at Musazi, comes anywhere near me, I'll kill Raz. The citizen won't be happy if that happens, right? Noel looked as if she was going to offer some defiance, strike back in defense of her pride, but after a moment she simply sighed. Roughly half of the drones surrounding her turned to face... Oh, he turned a disadvantage into an advantage! Oh. Roughly half of the drones surrounding her turned to face Musazi rather than Dragan's group. Musazi looked as if he were going to burst a blood vessel. Fight your own battles, Hadrian! And you, Mr. Musazi, said Dragan, ignoring what the special officer had actually said. If that girl or get friend...
Oh,
what?
Her friends.
If that girl or her friends try anything sneaky, I'll kill this guy! I'm sure that letting that happen would go against your honor or your justice or whatever. Noel shot him a glare at the implied accusation. Oh, please, said Dragan, rolling her eyes before she could even speak. You know what's going to happen is they're going to get away and Dragan's going to be like, so why is no one talking to me back at base? Everyone's just going to be like in the corner, ignoring it. But it's true. Don't think for a second that I trust you not to try something. Look, my trigger finger is getting itchy here, and this is turning into a stressful fucking night, so back off, all of you! There was a moment of silence in the square, and for a few seconds, Dragan worried that his bluff, if it was a bluff, hadn't worked. Then, both Musazi and Noel's group took a few steps back, giving Dragan some space. This wasn't bad. This wasn't bad at all. Kidnapping people's pretty great. Somehow, he'd managed to set up a miniature Cold War between the people who had come here to kill him. The stalemate wouldn't last long, but he didn't need it to last long. Just long enough to get away from this mess. Okay, he said breathlessly. Okay, that's better. Noel? What? She said, her frustrated voice leaking through gritted teeth. Your guy, the sniper. You're in contact with him right now, yeah? Noel shrugged. Maybe. Don't get cute with me, Dragan snarled, pushing the gun tighter against Raz's skull. There's no way you'd let your guys do what they want. You tell your pink buddy to get me a car. A big one, with enough room to fit me and my buddies. Gotta have a jacuzzi, too. Fast as well. Got it? I can seek out the vehicle you seek, said Rayange, taking a step forward. Dragan shot him a feral glance, and he stopped instantly. That's not what I asked, Dragan said. You think I'm letting you and those bombs out of my sight? I'm not stupid, but try to trick me again and I might do something stupid. Rayange shut his eyes in resignation. Very well, forgive my trespass. Forgive my trespass? Seriously! Dragan wondered how Musazi felt, standing across from a parody of himself. Noel put a hand to her ear. Simeon, she said, voice low, you get that? There was a second of silence, and then she quietly nodded. It'll take a minute or two, she said. That's fine, Dragan said, still holding on to Raz, the Umbrant's legs flopping around this way and that every time Dragan turned. We're all going to wait here together, like the good friends we are. Then we, he jerked his head towards Skipper, Bruno, and Ruth, are going to leave. That makes sense to you? How has Serena not come out yet and been like, okay, maybe I was wrong about Dragan being a good person, guys?
Serena will be fine with this. Smile.
I don't believe that. She's the heart of the group. Noelle's eyes were full of humiliated resentment, but she nodded all the same. Dragan knew that, if he ever ran into her again, he'd have hell to pay for this. I like how Dragan's stance on dealing with hostility is the same stance the United States takes with debt. It's a problem for the future. We simply won't worry about it now. Still, there weren't exactly any other options, and what was done was done. A low growl from Musashi sent Dragan whirling to face him, shaking his gun as a warning. Truth be told, he was more frightened of Musashi than Noelle and all her drones put together. He'd seen what the special officer could do, after all. If Musashi wanted to kill Dragan, he'd be helpless to resist. And if Musashi wanted to take him back to the Supremacy, he wasn't in for a friendly reception. "Dragan Hadrian!" said Musashi, looking like it was taking every ounce of willpower he had not to draw his sword and charge. "I won't forget this. Wherever you flee to, I will find you. You will face justice." Again, Dragan didn't reply. Anything he said would only piss off Musashi more, and he didn't want to aggravate him enough to break the stalemate. "They won't let us go, you know," muttered Skipper next to him. The man hadn't spoken for a while, as though observing Dragan's strategy. "Shut up!" said Dragan reflexively. He continued looking at their enemies as he spoke. "I know. I'll think of something." "What?" "Something." The car arrived, a hijacked limousine from the looks of it, with a long body and night black hull. It floated over the stalls and landed just on the edge of the festival grounds, setting on the artificial grass. The driver door opened, and a young man with pink hair climbed out, his eyes cautious. The second he was out in the open, he put his hands up and moved around the edge of the street to join Noelle's group. The white tuxedo he was wearing clearly out of place. That must be the one Noelle had called Simeon, then. There was something strange about that hair of his. I assume that was that instead of hat.
Yeah.
That hair of his. Sorry, I'm not trying to be a dick. I just want to make sure everything's edited before it goes up on Royal Road. That hair of his. It was long but ragged at the edges, inconsistent, as though it had been cut by a knife rather than scissors. Sometime in the last couple of minutes, too, judging by the Oh, shit. Oh, he used some Aether hair bullshit that's gonna tie them up in the car. I know it. I know he did. Oh, wait, no. His hair is the fucking arrows. Never mind. I thought it was going to be much more clever, judging by the indentations on the man's hands. "Okay," said Dragan, letting out the breath he'd been holding. He began tugging Roz's body towards the link, the rest of the crew forming a protective square around him. "Now, you stand there, and we—" Something orange flashed past Dragan's vision, and a strange burning sensation erupted in his right hand, the hand that was holding the gun. I think there's been more dragons than Dragons in this chapter. A second later, he realized it was pain. His eyes flicked to his hand. There was something sticking out of the palm, impaling it like the stick of a kebab. As Ruth whirled around, slashed two more orange projectiles out of the air before they could strike, Dragan stared uncomprehendingly at his injured hand, at the object protruding from it. It was a swordfish? Something like an orange glass sculpture of a swordfish was sticking out of his wound, similarly orange aether crackling around it. No, now that Dragan looked, he could see that the thing in his hand wasn't a sculpture. It was wiggling, just slightly, its gills undulating. Oh my god, is this fucking... What's that ability in JoJo Part 5? The guy can make it in water?
Oh.
No, you know what I mean? The guy who can, like, make things move in water. Is he, like, doing that, but he's making it move in his flesh? I guess this is more like Golden Wind than that ability. He had no clue what it was, but the damn thing was alive. His gun clattered to the ground, followed by Roz, and a scream of pain finally escaped Dragan's throat. Nobody missed their chance. Musashi charged forward, blade whipping out of its sheath, as nearly every single one of Noelle's drones surged forward. I assume drones, yeah. Surged forward, each sensor fixed on Roz's unconscious body. Skipper raised his fingers, ready to fire discriminately, as Bruno raised a force field to protect Dragan from further attacks, and Ruth rushed forward to meet Musashi's assault. The real festival had finally begun. Ooh, that was a lot. I assume the orange is the fifth dead guy, because no one else here has orange aether, and he's the only one that hasn't shown up. So was his intent to create chaos so that it would take care of their problem? I'm unsure, but that ability seems pretty cool. And Dragan's hand is definitely fucked. Yeah. Oh, that's another way he'll be like Skipper. They'll be cripple buddies.
Well, he's not as fucked.
Yeah, but also Dragan's not as much of a man as Skipper, so it works out parallel.
That's the equivalent.
You know what I mean?
My hand.
Skipper's just like staring there like, "Oh, tough luck, buddy." So, my question is... Oh, God, this is getting harder to think of after every chapter. Who do you think is cooler, Dragan or Dragan?
Well, Dragan is the one who holds everything.
Yeah. So, we'll see. And with that, thank you guys for watching. I hope you continue to stay tuned. How much is left in the arc, you think?
We've just, we're quite a lot.
Oh. Alrighty. In that case,
we'll leave
you off, guys. So stay tuned. Bye.
Bye.